Good evening, students. Let's get started in few minutes. Good evening, Aradhya. I'm doing good, Hariharan. Just let's wait for a few minutes for everyone to join. Good evening, Sakab. Good, good evening, Nilanjan. Yes, Ankit. Ankit, were you there on Saturday? Ankit, okay. So, did you follow the flow I was giving on Saturday? Like, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, maybe I'll repeat that flow, but I just want you to have that picture in mind before again starting today's class, because I understand there are few students who were not there on Saturday and they have missed the bigger picture. while they understand the understand the code, but they don't know what fits where. So I'm going to discuss that. What do you think about blockchain? I think that's a good idea. Imagine you're not there for Saturday. That's okay. I'll explain it again. Blockchain is a good idea. And right now, blockchain developers get paid a lot more than other developers because not many people know about that technology. So those of you who want to, so I mean, for example, if you are doing, will it be worth to be a blockchain? Yeah, it will be worth. I mean, don't stick to one technology, Ankit, per se. I don't call yourself as a software. Don't call yourself as a Java developer or JavaScript developer per se. Call yourself as a web developer. Call yourself as a Web 3.0 developer. Okay, now you don't care whether solidity is there in the market or not. As long as there's some technology related to Web 3.0, you will be worth it. Okay, so yeah, it will be worth being a actually it will be worth being a good blockchain developer. Okay, so now let's get started on today's lecture. I'll just explain the story so far first, and then we'll take it forward from there. So we have something called as CRM app, Customer Relationship Management app. What is what is this app doing? Basically, the idea is there are some users and there are some tickets. Users are of three types: admin, customer, and engineer. Yeah. Sir, one doubt in user controller final, why we are sending result like await fetch by name, uh, fetch by name, username. Why we are sending that's also because we are in the catch block. You are also sending when you write the catch block in the fetch by name function. You actually send back the result if the result is not correct. Okay, Hariharan? So you want some mechanism for using the response so that you can send it, and if there is error, you can send an error message. Therefore, you are sending the result object. Oh, sorry, response object. Okay, now what is there? These are three types of users which manipulate manipulate tickets. This is the basic framework. This is the basic idea of the app. But since you have users, you want to build authentication for the user and some activity guidelines for them. So you need to build authentication and user activity. Those are a couple of things that we need to do. Now how the app is. Let's look at the framework of the app in few minutes. So the CRM app, as we know it, has multiple moving parts and pieces. There is something called as model. I'll just call it models because we are having ticket model today. There's something called as models, and these models. Can you tell me what these models are doing? Let me ask Nilanjan. Nilanjan, what do you think models are doing? connecting to DB, they are database. You can think of them as the database. They stores the data. Store the data. Whatever data you want to store is stored using models. We have something called as controllers, and controller is basically it controls the data. It is the first layer which controls. Yeah, absolutely, that is correct, Millennium. Controllers control. Let me write it better. Just give me 1 second. Controllers are going to control the data. Control the data, and you have some things that help you work with controllers and models. There is something called as uh, middleware, which provides some extra services that all different controllers, some extra middleware services which different controllers can use. So this provides services to the controller. Okay, services to controller. All requests will pass through middleware. Is it necessary? No, Nilanjan. That is not necessary. Only the requests that are set to pass through the middleware will pass through middleware. And this is an important question. Who will decide which request will go through the middleware and which request will not go through the middleware? Nilanjan, can you think of a component who can decide this question? Yeah, like authenticating. When you're authenticating that engineer is indeed there, you need a token verification service. But who decides which service will who decides which request will pass through a middleware and which will not? No, not API. There's this distinct thing that decides it. This one, routes. Yes. There's something called as routes, which determines how the information flows through the system. Okay? Decides the flow of routes. Routes don't have API. Routes have basically a map between a given uh, gate API gateway to a given function in controller. I'll explain routes in just a second. Describe the flow of requests. Okay, so routes are these things. If you don't know about them, let me share this. Let me share this again. Uh, so these are routes. You decide what is the uh, endpoint that you want to connect to, and then once you have the endpoint, you decide what are the middlewares for that endpoint, and then you decide what is the controller you are hitting with that endpoint. This whole route from the endpoint to the controller, endpoint is this one, this here, this part here is called as endpoint. If you look at get, let me show it to you. App dot get. So this, uh, sorry, which one, sir? This one. You see a URL here. This one is called as the API endpoint. Sorry, a gateway or access point or whatever you want to call it. It's just a place where a particular request comes and hits. And this determines what needs to be done with the user request. Okay. If there is a put request on this URL, then I'm going to call these two middlewares and this controller. This is what routers work is. It determines the flow of the request. Where is it coming from? What are the middle stations it will go through? And what is the final destination? Vivek, are you in the class? Okay, so I hope you are following so far. Let me go back to the drawing board. Let me stop this. Let me show. So routers decides the flow of requests. You have middlewares, routers control, and there are some bookkeeping processes. Sir, why middleware in array format? We can just write the separated comma only. No, that I don't know if that will work, Nilanjan. You have to decide all the middlewares in an array, and then you can do. Okay. Gauri Deshpande, can we say routes are API only? Routes are a part of API. API is this these endpoints that are given to you. Routes determine how those endpoints are connected to the controllers. Okay. API is the whole software or whole software that is running, and then routes determine how the endpoints connect to the controller. Multiple middleware will come in array only. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you'll have middleware routers. So you can think of the flow of the information is like this. A client raises a request. It goes to the router. From the router, it goes to the middleware. From the middleware, it goes to controller. And then controller hits the models to change the request or do whatever is asked in the request. Then model gives the response to the controller. Controller sends it back to the router, and router sends it back to the user. So that's how it works. API gateway is the endpoint. Yeah, API gateway is the endpoint. Yes, that is true. Yes, Abhijit. Hmm. So we have routes, and now we have something called as. There are a few more things that you need to understand. One is config. So there are some configurations that you want to keep. I mean, these are the knobs in your machine that you want to change over time or keep constant. Basically, what database you are using, what is the URL of the database, what are the URLs. If there is a front end, what is the URL of front end? If there is a front end who is talking to a back end, then the front end will have the URL of the back end. All those things are kept in a config file, in a config document. Sorry, in a config data, in a config folder. And then finally, there is utils, which contains anything like constants or library functions, whatever is used across different domains of the program. This is just extras. Okay. So those are the key players that you need to understand to appreciate the common things. Yeah, common things. Utils are common things. Those are the key things that you need to understand the CRM app. Okay. Now, why am I talking about this? Again, I have discussed this on Saturday, but there are some of you who are not there. It's not usually a good idea to discuss something groundbreaking on Saturday. But anyways, it was a good point, so I discussed it. Um, Basically, imagine there are two people, someone who knows English. Yes, here we are seeing the complete overview of CRM app, Nilanjan. That is true. Okay, somebody who knows English and somebody who don't. What is CRM app? Uh, CRM app is the customer relationship management app that we are building with this with in these classes, Vivek. You remember I took a class where I was discussing what does the CRM app do and how it is used. It contains these three kinds of people, and then there are tickets, and they manipulate the tickets. You have to maintain authentication and user activity. You remember that, Vivek? Hello? Okay. So that's what CRM app is. Anyways, so you have English, somebody who knows English, and somebody who don't, and I give them a sentence. All men are mortal. This is a classic sentence from logic. Suppose I give this sentence to these two people. The person who don't know English but who knows only English alphabets, only English alphabets, he don't know words, he just knows alphabets. Then he will try to and ask both of them to remember this sentence. The person who only knows the alphabets will try to remember it one alphabet at a time. He will see that A comes first, one comes next, then one comes, then M comes, then there's a space, then there's M E N, there's a space, there is R E A R E, then a space, and so on and so forth. You'll try to remember each alphabet in the order. Okay. And whereas the person who knows English has a higher structure, he knows words and he know how those words links to. So this person who knows English has the high probability of remembering this sentence. Do you agree? If I just give 5 seconds, this person who knows English will has high probability of remembering. Whereas who does not know English can't really remember much details. Okay, he cannot unless he has photographic memory, which is like another concept, but can't really remember much. Okay, this is the usual case. A usual person who don't know English, or if I put Chinese letters in front of you, you will still be in the same diagram. Now, this is the first observation. Second observation is if this guy makes a mistake, the meaning of the sentence will be the same. So even if he says all persons are mortal, or all women are mortal, or he says all human beings are mortal, uh, the mortality part is still the same. He's just changing the gender and he's making it more gender neutral. But the sentence is more or less the same. There's not much meaning difference. Okay, meaning will stay. Meaning stays same. Stays similar in case of error. Even if there is error, the meaning stays similar. And the third is, uh, and the third is, if I give a so if I give a random sentence like X, Y, ELF, ZGF, GSFR. Okay. Suppose this is the sentence I give. Then there is no difference between the English learner and the person who don't know English, who only knows alphabets. Okay. In random sentence, in random sequence, there is no advantage. You follow the the experiment so far between a person who knows English and a person who don't know English. Now, can you tell me why the person who knows English is able to remember the sentence so well, make meaningful errors, and was not able to remember the sentence in case of a random pattern? Can you tell me what is happening here? Why is the person who knows English so good than the person who don't know English? It's not practice. Experience is not the thing. I don't see if I don't teach the words, then learning. Yeah. Likit is saying he knows the meaning of every word, which is the key here. It's not the practice. So you might say I will work hard, and one day I'll get a job. That's not gonna work. You need something which moves you above, move you one step above in the level of abstraction. What this person is seeing is only alphabets. Okay, but this person who knows English is seeing as these words as structures in themselves which have meaning. Okay, they are operating at different level of abstraction. He is operating at the level of abstraction of alphabets. He is operating at words or maybe sometimes sentences. He has some memory of sentences. Okay, and that is the difference that I want to create with these lectures. I don't want you to operate at the level of code. Some of you might be still asking, how is this whole picture working? I don't want you to operate at the level of code. Code is okay. I mean, you can operate at the level of functions. Like when we were discussing DSA, I was telling you to focus on the functions, not to focus on each line of code. Because if you understand the function and you know how to divide your code into functions, then you can easily solve the question. Similarly, now I'm not even telling you to focus on the functions. I'm telling you to focus on the modules and try to understand at the level of modules what is happening in the app. What happens inside the module, you can learn that later. Right now, just learn what is the modules doing. And what will this do? How does this advantage translates into your ability to work with the code? First of all, if you understand this whole flow of things in the app, you will be able to remember the code much better. If somebody asks you, where can I find a particular piece of information? You don't have to search. You don't have to do a control F to search for a particular function. You know where that function should be intuitively because you know what each module is doing. So you will be able to remember the code base very easily. Second, if there is an error in your code, you will be able to debug it very easily because you know what is the flow of the information through the app, and you will know exactly where you are getting the error. Are you following? And then the third advantage you have, if somebody else writes somebody, if there is a legacy code which is written in this kind of model, you will be able to quickly get what that code is doing because you know this overview. How to come up with better model design on own as per requirement of an app. Abhijit, that is, we will be discussing couple of more apps as this classes go along. We'll do like 4 classes where we'll discuss 4 more apps, and most of the time I want you to stick to the MVC framework only. Legacy means old code. Legacy code is something that is written by your previous developers, okay, or somebody else's code. You can call it legacy. Okay, you want yeah, Legacy. Sorry for the spelling. Legacy. Legacy code is something that is old. Okay, can you explain flow once again? Yes, flow is like this. Routers decides the flow. Nayan, router decides the flow. Router decides what will happen when a particular when request hit a particular API gateway or API endpoint, and then the request typically goes from router. Sir, start from API when we request. A legacy is something the old code. Somebody else's code is called as legacy. Okay, somebody else's code is called as legacy code. So when you see a new piece of code, uh, how do you understand the code faster? This comes from understanding the architecture of the code. Okay, don't directly jump into each line of the code, but understand the architecture. Okay, can you explain flow once again? I'll explain. So start from API when we request. Okay, so what is going on? Let me share the screen and again discuss how things are working. Just give me a few minutes. Uh, are you able to see this relevel window? Okay. Just give me 1 minute. Let me open Postman. They have a very good name. I like the name Postman, by the way. I don't know who gave it. Yeah. Uh, Postman. Hmm. People are still in Christmas mode. Very nice. Yes, Vivek. So legacy ones. Legacy, what do you understand by legacy, Vivek? Legacy is so suppose there was a software written in an old language. For example, some software which was written in COBOL, okay, or maybe an old version of Java, and then uh, an old version of Java. Then what will happen is it will be difficult to maintain that code, and that kind of code is called as legacy code, which is hard to manage because of its old nature. Sometimes we call legacy code to be something that is handed down to you from another team. Typically, what happens is when there is a new team formed or there's a restructuring in the company, then a bunch of code base comes from a given team to a different team, and that kind of code is called as legacy code. But my purpose of using legacy code here was to explain to you that if an unknown code base is given to you, you can quickly understand it if you understand the architectural pattern behind the code. Okay. It is similar to when you see a new English sentence, you will understand the meaning of sentence if you know how the words work. Does that make sense, Vivek, or do you want to unmute yourself? Okay. Yes. Okay. So where is the story starting? Our story starts at this point when we decide to sign up or sign in or whatever we want to do. Suppose I want to sign up to a username, email address, type, and password. I send a request from this post. This request and my application is listening to all the requests that are coming to localhost 3000. Right now, it is not looking because I have not started Node yet, but mostly it is looking all the requests that are coming to this point. Once the request comes to this point, which is which is your app.js, okay, your app.js is running Express server, and that Express server is constantly listening to Express. The app is an Express server which is constantly listening to request coming to it. Once the request comes, it goes to multiple routers. There are multiple router endpoints that are open. For example, a basic endpoint is slash, where I am just sending a hi in case somebody hits me. Um, then there are different endpoints. Few endpoints are for authentication router. Few are for the user router. We have discussed uh, two kinds of controllers so far. One controller that we discussed was for the authentication controllers. Okay, and both of them use the same model of user. We'll come to model in few minutes. So we this request come to this, and suppose there is an authentication request, which is sign up request. So it goes to this router, which is auth router. And if I go to the auth router, authentication router has these two API endpoints. First is the sign up, and the other is sign in. If the sign up request comes, it directly goes to auth controller dot sign up, which is a controller in which is auth controller, which is take care of the authentication, and it goes to sign up, which contains a request and a response. I do some magic. Don't worry about what I do. All the logic of sign up is here. Okay, I do the sign up on the user and send a response. This while doing the sign up, I am calling the user object, user model. I get the user model. User is a model imported from user model, and I call that model to save my data. This model hits my user route is different. Yeah, user route is for this thing, for fetching all the users, for finding user by ID, finding and updating users. Since you are not there on Saturday, we discussed these APIs, uh, which were helping the admin to change the status of users, or finding users by IDs. Okay. This is called as user activity. So sometimes compare sync does not work, so I use compare. What is the major difference between the two? Compare sync is there for a synchronous compare. So code will stop there when compare is happening. Whereas compare, normal compare will you will have to call a callback on that because it's a async function. To make changes or update, user need to be admin. Yes, that is correct. Therefore, I'm saying is admin. Okay, to make the changes or search for users, the user has to be admin, and therefore I have a middleware called as is admin. So in an update while giving wrong user, it gives success message. Uh, in update, let me check. That might be a problem. Let me see. Yeah, that is true, Anna. I explained that part. Update, where is it giving? So it comes here, and if I give a wrong user ID, uh, it sends user record has been updated. Uh, okay, maybe the user is getting. Just give me 1 second. Maybe you have to write some code here, which is for uh, if user dot length. Um, no, it should not be user dot length. It should be something like uh, user dot object converter fetch by name params. I'm not sure. What you will have to do is you have to look at I've written if user then rest else respond as user ID does not exist. It worked. Yeah, that is what you need to do. But what I'm thinking is right now, what I'm right now thinking, Hariharan, is uh, what is the response that I'm getting? Am I getting the name of the user or am I getting that response like how many are updated or something? Exec is executing the query. This is a function that you have to use when you're doing update. Okay. If you're not doing update, you don't need exec, but you need up. If when you're doing update, you need this. It executes the query. Okay. Uh, I understand where Hariharan is coming from. Let's take it up later, or maybe I mean that's a small minor detail. I don't want to spend time on fixing it, so I'll just let it be. But ideally, you have to check if users is a empty list or not. If users is empty, you return that no user have been updated. So something like that, some code like this will come. I'm not able to understand it right now, but if user is there, then you should return this. When we are doing operation, we need to use yes. When we are doing update operation, yeah. This is user, and else you can return there was no user from. Something like this you can do, but I'm not sure if this will just to send message user ID form. Okay. That's what we can do. I'm not sure if this will work, so we'll take it. We'll park it for the time being. Let's move to the next part of the code. Babu Reddy's, when we are doing two operations, we need to use exact. Uh, I let me give you the exact detail of exact. Exact in what's it called? Mongoose. Mongo, mongoose. Yeah. Uh, Provides several static helper functions on return no query object. Query also have then function that can be used to promise execute. When executing a query, a callback function, you specify a query in JSON, and JSON documents it makes the same as this. Uh, Find one is okay, but okay, it is basically this is basically the exact function is sir compare and compare sync again. Compare and compare sync is for that asynchronous and synchronous calling. So suppose you want the control to stop at the compare. Suppose you want to stop the flow of the. Suppose you want to wait for the compare to end before you can move forward. Use compare sync. If you want to use, if you don't want it to wait, directly use compare. Compare returns you a promise. Exec is used to execute the query object which is returned in mongoose query. Yes, that is true. And what it does is it is basically similar to then operator. Have you seen the then operator? It is very similar to that. Basically, it executes the query. Whereas find one update is going to create a query that you want to do. App.use auth router and router are the same? No, they're not the same, Aradhya. App.use auth router, in that you have to use a different syntax for the router. You cannot use the same syntax. Okay? It will insert a new document if user ID. It will insert a new document. Here just copying module structure of app as being done in class, but when asked to create an app, things mixed up in MVC structure. Here just copying module structure of app as being done in class, but when asked to create an app, uh, things get mixed up in MVC structure. So what I'm understanding is you're not able to do it for a fresh app. Is that the question, Naviji? So the best way is to do for a couple of apps. We are going to do like 3, 4 apps as the class moves on, and then try to see how you will understand. I mean, typically that happens because you're not able to understand the app. Uh, yeah. Uh, we will understand how these apps work once you see a bunch of apps getting created. That's what I can say. Another thing is try to reason about it from the first principles. Why do we need a controller? Why do we need to structure our code like this? All these questions, if you ask, you will understand it. Always try to see start from the models. Whenever a question comes, start from the models. Try to see what are the key models that you need for that problem, and then build up from there. Build what are the, if you have these two models, what are the controllers you need. If you have those controllers, middleware is the simplest part. Middleware is, once you see 2, 3 apps, you will understand what kind of things goes into middleware. So middleware is very simple. Sir, when doing sign up, if user ID is provided, which is already present in DB, it gives error. Some internal, yeah, the user ID is already updated. The user ID is already up. That is true. User ID should be unique, Nilanjan. It should not be, uh, yeah. No, 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 no. You don't respond like that. Uh, Nilanjan, it is, you don't respond with that detail. You don't say that user ID is already used. I mean, that depends on the upon the design that you want to build for this, but that's a very low level detail. But you can decide that you want to say there's an error, or you can say that the user ID has been already used. Both of them are okay. I didn't go to that granularity for the sake of time. I just said any error that comes, I don't care what it is. I'll just return that. I'll just return that it is It is not getting updated. But there is something you can do, which is to check the whole sign up request. There is a middleware that you can create, which is user request body. There's something called as verify user request body, which is the middleware you can create. And that middleware can check if it is, sir, can we give reply if it is duplicate? Yeah, that is what I'm talking about. There can be a which is called as middleware, which is called as uh, verify ticket request. Sorry, not ticket request. Uh, User request body, in which you are going to verify the JSON that is coming to you for the sign up. When there is a sign up, whatever JSON is coming to you, you should be able to verify it. And you should be able to give a pinpointed answer to that verification. You should be able to say, okay, your email is not correct, for your email is not correct, or your ID is not correct, or whatever you have written is not correct. So all those things you can do, or I don't like, we don't like your name or something like that. But basically, you need a module, a small module that can verify the whole user request. I've not written it because I thought that for to save time, I've not written it. Uh, yeah, but you get the idea. You can write a middleware which can do all that for you before it hits the controller. Before you go to the controller, you can write a middleware that will take your request and do a sanity check on that. I got that. Thanks. Okay. Okay, Nilanjan. So that was the story so far. So far, we have discussed. Uh, So far, we have discussed three things. We have discussed user model, we have discussed authentication controller, and we have discussed the user controller. Today, we are going to create another model. Just a second. Just a second. Let me mute. Hmm. Can I mute this group? Okay. Sorry for the disturbance. Okay. Today we are going to create another model, and that model is called as ticket model.js. How does your ticket look like? We need a schema, and we will create a model out of the schema. Okay. So I'll directly create the model. I'll not write anything in the whiteboard for this. I'll just come here, add a file, and call this file as ticket.model.js. How does this ticket model look like? We'll have const mongoose. Yes, that is true, Nilanjan. Tickets will be stored in a separate collection. And every ticket will be assigned a user. So you can fetch that user from the user ID. Mongoose is equal to require mongoose, simple, and then on ticket schema is new mongoose dot schema, and we can have title. The title of the ticket. The type of title is string, and required is obviously true. I like to write a comma after this. ticket priority. You need a priority for the ticket, and type is typically number. Why is this coming here? Come on, type is number, and required is true, and you need a default value. It is 4. 4 is the lowest priority. Priority 1 is the topmost priority, and 4 is the lowest priority that we have. So tickets can have priority from 1 to 4. 1 being the most. Haven't we go with separate folder? We have created a no, we all the models will stay in the models folder. You don't have to create a separate folder for each model. Hurry, hurry. Okay. Sorry. Got your point. Just got your point. Yeah. Yeah, that is, thanks for reminding me. Let me delete this part. Oh, yeah, let me delete this part. And yeah, we need a ninth folder. That is true. Just give me 1 minute. Let me create it. Thank you. Thanks a lot for reminding, Hariharan. So I go to relabel. There should be a folder called CRM app. I go to CRM app. There is a app folder. Inside this, there is 8. I control C this and I control V this. So my folder is copied. It'll take few minutes. Let it get copied. Okay, this folder is copied. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this. I'm going to call it 9.building in the CRM app, and this is it, manipulation and admin capabilities. Now today's date is 26th, no 27th, I don't know. Today is 26th. I just come here and rename this 26th of December 2022, and that should be good. Now I'll go to my GitHub desktop. I'll go to CRM app and I'll say created the folder for class 9. Comment these changes. Yeah, thanks for that, Hariharan and Suraj, for writing the date. Push origin. And that's good. Now I can go to chapter number 9, and I can go to models, and inside models I can define another file. Let me call this as ticket.model.js. Happy? Now we are going to, in this model, we'll define a file which contains mongoose, which is require mongoose, and then const ticket schema is new mongoose dot schema, and this schema we are going to talk about title. Title is going to be, this is a schema like this. Okay, anyways, I don't want this to be, come on, go away. Title will be of type string, is required. Required is true. Then you have ticket priority, which is again type is string. Required is true. And default is say 4. Description is also type. What the need for default there? Aradhi, because sometimes if you don't provide the priority, I already know that it is a low priority item. That's a added benefit I can provide. It is a required field, but if nobody provides a value, I'll say 4 as the priority. Does that make sense, Aradhi? Yeah. Okay. You have a status, which is type string, required as true, and default value is open. As soon as you create it, it is open. I don't like this. Uh, why do I not like? What is the right way to write this open? The right way would be to have it in the constants. So yeah, so just go to the constants, utils constants, and here what we can do is we can say ticket status. What are the ticket statuses that we have? We have open, which is open. What other ticket statuses do we have? Post is also there. Let me check. Yeah, we have open. We have in progress, which is in underscore progress. We also have blocked. There's some tickets which get blocked due to dependency on something else. Okay, so for example, I'm depending on another ticket, so that is blocked. Okay, and the final one is closed. It is basically when the ticket is closed. Will it reject it? No, you cannot reject a ticket. You can either close it, or if you're waiting for somebody, you can block. You can never close. You can never reject a ticket. Okay, you can close it. If you're not okay with the customer demand, you can close it by saying that I'm not happy. But you cannot directly reject it, as you can do with a bunch of other things. Okay, as users can be rejected, but tickets have to be closed. Okay, so you come here and you do const ticket status, and I got that from constants, and all I need to do is come here and write ticket status dot open. This is the default value. This is the status. Other than status, what else do we need in the ticket model? We need the reporter, who reported it, who is the assignee. We need all these information. I mean, typically those are not required, but it's a good idea to have a location for who has reported. Is the reporter of the ticket. You can write the name of the string. You can write the user ID of the user. There is also an assignee, which is also an optional parameter. Typically, every ticket you would want a assignee, or you would want to assign it to one of the engineers. Will have created at This is similar to the user data. Okay, user model also I had created at, which is of type date. Who is the person who has created the ticket? That is called as reporter. Think of reporter as the creator. Okay, so then you'll not get confused. Reporter is the creator of the ticket. Type is date, immutable. This is, don't change the starting date. It will remain the same. And default value is a function which returns date, date dot now. I have to see if I have imported date. I have not imported. I think it is there in the schema, so I'll not do anything about it. And then the final thing that we have is updated at, which is the last field in this. Updated at. This updated at. Why is the schema coming up? Sorry. Updated at. Engineer assignee is an engineer assigned. Yeah, it is the engineer who is assigned this ticket. Okay. So suppose I say that Suraj is going to resolve this ticket, so I assign this ticket to Suraj. That is called as assignee. Updated date is also of type date. It is mutable. It's okay if you don't provide it, it's not mandatory. And the default value of this is also date.now. That's how you can create a. I don't need anything else, so I'll just create the schema like this only. There's also some option like you can do a version key false or something if you want to remove. You can send some options in the schema like how do you want to keep, do you want to keep the version key or not, or all those options. I'll keep them intact. I don't mind a version key we change. By default, why write in function? We cannot write it directly because I think direct will not work. Uh, Function will call this. I think function will call this function, so therefore it is a default value. I'm not sure. Yeah. Anyways, we come here. Once we have the schema, all we need to do is we need to export this schema. So I'll just do module dot exports equal to mongoose dot model, create a ticket model, call this model as ticket, and I just send the ticket to schema. That's how I can create the model. And are you able to follow this schema validation part? Validation part? Is there anyone who is not following the schema validation part? Got it. Okay. We're just creating a schema and creating a model from it. Now the next step would be to create the controllers for it. Uh, we will have 4 functions that we need to write in the schema. I'm just going to put like this. Okay, let me give you the overview of what I'm going to create in the model, in the control. Let me just give me 1 second. Let me think what really I want to communicate. Okay, I'll stop sharing for a few minutes and I'll tell you what all functionality we need from the ticket. Okay, from the ticket part of these things. And for that, if you give me 1 minute, I'll open up my PDF notes. I'll open up my PDF notes. And this is the PDF notes. Ticket manipulation and admin capabilities. And design of files. So here are all the things that we need. There are two people who can communicate with the tickets. Okay. Right now we are building it for only two people, but there can be a customer element. I'm not discussing that right now. That's not the part of today's session, but you can extend it to customers. Right now we are just looking at admin and engineer. Okay. And what are the capabilities that admin and engineers have? First, in admin should see all ticket. He should be able to see all ticket, able to see all ticket details. Second, he should be able to see all active tickets. And he should be able to see which ticket is from which engineer. So able to see customers and engineers. You should be able to see which customer has raised which ticket and which engineer is assigned to which ticket. Those are the things that admin needs. Engineer can update an issue. He can search for issue. He can basically search for an issue. Typically, he can search for an old issue. This is something that you might not have thought about, but sometimes a similar issue comes again and again. So engineer should have ability to search through the database for similar issues. Okay, and it can accept an issue, which is basically to make accept an issue, which is basically to convert open ticket into in pen is pending ticket or assigned ticket. Okay, that is access a issue. See the complete list of yeah, that is update. Close is update only. Okay, this is accept ACCEPT and see all the issues assigned to him. Whatever is assigned to me, I should be able to see all that issues. Issue means tickets. Yes, issue means ticket. Issue means ticket. Okay. So those are all the capabilities that we are supposed to build on our app. Any questions about this? Mhm. Just give me 1 second. Let me see what else is there next class. Application. 4, 4, 6, 7. Just give me 1 second. Let me check in the. Let me see if I'm covering the right things. 3, 4. Yeah, so this is correct. Can an engineer view tickets resolved by other? No, that is not. He should be able to search for the issue, so he should be able to see. Yeah, he should be able to see. Yeah, that is for another class, Gauri. We are going to create a notification service on top of the rest of the things that we are discussing, and that notification service is going to send notification whenever. That will be a different service that we'll use apart from our CRM app, and that service is going to send a notification whenever there is something interesting happening on the app. Okay. Can engineer update on an issue assigned to him or her? Uh, yes, he can update. That is what it is. Can in No, he cannot update an issue. He can update an issue which is not assigned to him. That is okay. Okay. I'm not sure how it is implemented, but ideally he should be allowed to update. That kind of capability you typically provide to your engineers. You trust them with the tickets. So um, let me see. Ah, yes, that is possible. That should be possible. He should be able to sort it based on active use engineer ID or user ID. That is correct. I like that idea. Um, okay. Just give me a few minutes. Let me see what is there in session 4. Coordinates. Images, ticket routes, user routes. Okay. I don't see a change from session 3 to session 4. Okay. Anyways, uh, yeah, that is okay, Likita. I like your idea. Uh, I think there's no difference between session 3 and session 4. So yeah, so that's the ticket model. And right now I'll take a break for 18 minutes. I'll come back at 9:36, and then maybe 9:37 to be precise. And then what we are going to do is after you come back, I'll define the controllers. Okay. And I'll try to define one middleware also. So break till, yeah, I'll push the changes. Break till 9:36. I'll call it 9:37. I don't mind 1 minute. 37 p.m. Okay. That is there. Now I'll just push the changes. Just give me 1 minute. Just come here and go to CRM app. Edit. Edit model. Hmm. I have pushed the changes of the ticket model. You can fetch it from the library. And I'm going to mute myself. Hello, students. Let me answer Likit's question first. Likit has asked a very good question. He is asking, sir, for find all API, we are calling it in get, and we kept the isadmin API in between. Then, how will it take the user ID from the body? There is something called as verify token middleware. Do you know about that, Likit? Now, in that verified token, just give me 1 second. Yeah, in the verify, here's the middleware. Yeah. Or in there is something called as verify token. This takes the token and finds out the user ID from that and then saves it in the request body. This is where I'm saving the user ID in the request body. Does that make sense, like it? The token contains the user ID and I'm taking it from the token. That's what it is. Sir, but I'm getting user as null. Uh, there is null. Let me go to the code. Controller. You're getting users as null here. Where are you getting it null? Here, users you are getting null. That means you don't have users in your database. Make sure there are some users in the database. Or are you getting it here, where you are getting it from the user ID? In is admin. Just give me 1 second. Is admin. Where are you getting user as null? Uh, Try to check the spelling of user ID. Yeah, try to check the spelling of user ID. Are you getting the right user ID from the decoded? Are you sending the proper user ID? So try to see from the starting. First print what you are getting here. Try to come here and print console console.log request.body. First of all, print here. Okay. Once you have printed here, then see if that user with that ID is present. Then print here as well. Come here and print. And one step at a time, you will be able to decode. Okay. The key thing that you need to remember is, yeah, yeah. The key thing you have to remember is go back to the router and see the what is the sequence in which this is happening. So first, find all is getting called from the users. First, the token is getting, then the admin. So try to see at each level what is the ID that you are getting. Maybe there is a spelling mistake somewhere, which is the most probable chance. You might have saved and try to go back to auth controller as well and see if this in sign in there is something called as token. Try to see that you are using user ID here, not ID or something else. Line number 79, try to see this line also. When the token is getting created, what are you saving in the token? If you are not saving it as user ID, you will not get it as user ID. Okay, can you tell me what you are saving at line number 79? Likit? User ID. And what are you using uh, in the verify token here? What are you using here? Decoded dot verify token. Same. And then you're saving it in the request body dot user ID. Can you print what you are getting in the request? Can you print the request body here and maybe here also? You're getting request body as undefined. Hmm. Is the spelling of request correct in there and here? Uh, I'm not sure. Yes. Okay. It should not be an error. I have copy pasted your code. That is the problem. Try to fetch it. Try to get the code from the GitHub link, click it, and try to see where is the difference. Okay, that might help because this code is working. So you can get it from the GitHub and check the difference. Okay, sure. Now I was talking about this ticket controller. I've created ticket model. Let me spend some time creating a ticket controller. Uh, of course, it will not have all the bells and whistles that you look for in a controller, but it will be a good controller that can do most of the things. So I'll come to controller and I'll define a new file called as ticket.controller.js. First, we'll have user. User is just require model slash user model, and we'll have cons ticket is require models slash ticket model, const const constants. So it will require utils slash constants const object converter require. Now you will understand why I have object converter, because I'll need it here as well. So far, so good. Now I'll define 4 functions and I'm going to go over each one of them one by one. First, I have exports dot create ticket. This is equal to a sync function to response. Then we'll have exports dot update ticket is equal to async request comma response. Then we have something called exports dot get all tickets. Is also async request comma response. And then finally we have something called as exports dot get one ticket. This is going to give one ticket. Let's look at each of these functions one by one. First of all, let's look at create ticket. Select खत्म नहीं हो गया चल से कर ले खत्म कर ले आजा आजा Excuse me. We'll have a ticket object which is containing few things. Let me see how many lines are there in this. Okay, there are a few lines. We need a random object to create the ticket first, which is all request.body. I'm going to talk about the request body in few minutes. Okay, this should not be equal. It should be colon. There should be title, there should be ticket priority. Request.body dot priority. There will be description. Request.body dot description. There will be status. It will be request body status and then reporter. Reporter is the person who is creating this ticket. So we'll have reporter, which is request dot body. Actually, request dot user ID. I'll typically call it body dot user ID. I'll save it in like body. I don't like keeping it at the higher level. I'll just keep it at the low level. We can also do this like using deconstructor. Uh, Deconstructor, but you'll have to define. The body might contain some more things, so you want to be specific about what all you want to choose from the body, Ankit. Okay, so you uh, you want you want a very focused way of working with your objects, because this data is going into your into your DB, so you want to be very clear about you need a lot of control over what gets into your DB. Then we have engineer, which is user dot find one engineer, and this is user type constants dot user types dot engineers. Get an engineer, and here's the status should be constants. Can you tell me what should be the status of the engineer if you want to assign him a ticket? Approved. He should be an approved engineer. You cannot assign to somebody who is not approved. Get an engineer like this. Once you have the engineer, you can just do ticket object dot assignee is equal to engineer dot user ID. Get the user ID of this engineer and assign it to the ticket. And now do the try block. On ticket is equal to await ticket dot create ticket object. That's all there is to it. If you ask me, that's the whole process. Get the data, put it into the model. But there are some more things that you need to do uh, to say that you have completed this one. So first thing would be if you are able to if you are able to create the ticket, if ticket is not null, means you have created the ticket, and do const user is equal to await user find one and user ID equal to request dot body dot user ID. Okay. For this user, I'm going to create a ticket user dot tickets. I'm going to say for this user that this ticket is created for him. So for the user, I'm going to say any one of them. This is a good point. Yeah, that is a good point that Satyendra and Hariharan is talking about. You want to do some randomization. So I'm not doing it right now, but typically you would want to have multiple. You want to do some kind of random fetch instead of a single fetch. Okay. So I'm not discussing that service which is going to automatically see which engineer has how many tickets and all that. I'm just abstracting out to find one right now, and that is a general point that I want to make. Uh, the general point that I have is each of these steps which I'm writing here can be broken further down. You can have much more bells and whistles and each at each of the steps. But I'm keeping it simple for the pedagogy. I want to explain the overall architecture rather than explaining how each specific thing is working. Okay. But there can be a random fetch, random find one in Mongoose. How to find random record in Mongoose? That should be the idea behind getting a random record, but just find one is going to give you a random record all the time. Just let me check if it is true. Uh, just give me 1 second. Find one Mongoose queries. Let us find one. Hmm. Yeah, object optional fields return queries that option. Find one command in MongoDB will return an arbitrary document. Okay, this is this is going to give an arbitrary so I'm assuming that it will give you a random document. I'm not sure if that is uh, a strict condition that holds, but hmm, just give it some seconds. My computer is stuck. My computer got stuck. Please give me a few minutes. It says it gives the arbitrary document, but I'm not sure if it is always random. So yeah, I don't want to get into that specific point right now, but yeah, you can have something like that. Can we do something like find the engineer who's currently has least amount of tickets assigned and assign the ticket to that engineer? That is a good idea, Arnav. Uh, that will take some time. That will take some query time, but it's a good idea. Or maybe you can have a different service which keeps on assigning. Maybe you can have a different cron job that keeps on assigning different engineers. So you can put all the tickets into a queue and then fetch tickets from the queue, and then it gets assigned. Okay. Uh, that is one thing that I can think of right now. So what you can do is you can have a separate service. The whole job of that service is to assign the tickets. It is like a queue, and you put all the tickets into the queue, and there is a cron job. All his life's purpose of this cron job is to convert these tickets into assigned tickets. Uh, these are open tickets, and you convert into is pending. And how do you do that? You assign an engineer to each of these tickets based on who is less available, who is more available. Okay. And so this will be a queue. And what you can do is you can keep a heap. What is cron? Cron is a small job that keeps on running. You can think of it like a robot that keeps on running. Uh, yeah. In architecture, there are sometimes some queries or some things that you want to run on a small serverless instance. Uh, what are you discussing? I'm discussing the fact that you want to, Karan, I'm discussing the fact that you might want to assign different engineers different tickets based on their availability. Okay, you have a pool of engineers, you have maybe 4 engineers, and you need to decide which engineer gets which ticket. Okay, that is the problem. Right now, I have created a simple find one function which gives a random engineer to you. There is a possibility that a single engineer gets assigned all the tickets. Uh, it's low probability, but it is still possible. To remedy that problem, I'm suggesting architecture where you put the tickets into inside a queue. You can use maybe a Redis queue for this, and then you can have a cron job that looks at the availability of current engineers and then assign the ticket to the most available engineer. Or it can also be done another way. There's one more thing you can do. You can have a place where you store the on-call engineer. There's something called as on-call in companies. On-call is a person who takes care of the tickets that are arriving in a particular week, and there is a rotation. So this week maybe Karan is on call, next week Nilanjan, then next week Arnav, and so on and so forth. One person will be at on call at each time. And then what you can have is you can always assign the ticket to the current on call. Okay, so those are a couple of options that you can explore in this case. Does that make sense or no? And who else asked this question? Does that make sense? Satyendra, Hariharan, Karan, and Arnav. Okay, nice discussion. I like the fact that you are thinking about this problem. So, so what you need to do is you need to say that the ticket is created, and uh, and you need to come here and say ticket dot underscore ID. Push the ID of the ticket into the user, and then you can just do await user dot save. This is going to save the user with the new ticket ID. Okay, this is like pushing the changes onto the model. Similarly, you can do engineer, the engineer that you have fetched above, and you can do tickets assigned. So whosoever is the engineer, I can do tickets assigned, and I can push ticket dot underscore ID. Okay. And again, I can do await engineer dot save. And finally, once you have created the ticket and assigned it to the user as well as the engineer, you can send a response saying status. You can send a status of 201, which means success, and send the object converter dot ticket response. I'm going to write this response in few minutes and send the ticket. Okay. You can send an object convert. Ideally, you can directly send the ticket, but I'll just create an object converter further. Can you show the user model once? I can show. I can just show. And you might be asking, where is these two things, ticket created and ticket assigned in the user model, Satyendra? The fact is they are not there, but since this is a schema less, you can add them. Okay. That is yeah. What it means is these things are not there in the schema, but you can add them. There's no problem in adding new things into the schema. Okay. Are they predefined? They're not predefined. You can just maybe just give me 1 second. Let me check if there is a change in the user model. Yeah, there is. Sorry. I'm sorry for that. We have to update the user model as well. So where is the user model? And in this user model, uh, there are two more fields that we need to do. First field is ticket created, tickets created. It is going to be of type mongoose dot schema type dot object id. Is there an object id? No, it should be schema types. Schema types dot object id. Similarly, this is reference for ticket. Okay. And this object ID is coming from ticket. Uh, can we? Yeah, you can embed. That is also a possibility. You can embed it inside the user. Uh, but here we are just going ahead with a reference. Both of them are possible. You can embed the ticket or you can keep it as a reference. This will not happen a lot. So why am I not keeping it as embedded? Can you think of a reason for not keeping it as embedded? I kept the profile intact, but I'm not keeping the ticket size intact. Why is that so? Satyendra, can you think of a reason why I'm not keeping it as embedded? Why tickets created is specified as object ID? Because I'm going to pass the object ID of that document. You know what object IDs are? I think I've discussed this in the class where I was taking this underscore ID is what the object ID of that is. This is the MongoDB index. Yes. So now when I'm saving these object IDs in this, uh, it will not slow down our query. That is, it might slow down. That's not the problem. The problem is we are not going to query this that much. We are not going to look at all the tickets raised by customer that often. It will happen once in a while, but mostly we will be just looking at a particular ticket instead of looking at all the tickets raised by a particular customer. That will not be a very common query. Therefore, I don't want to save all the tickets at one place. Okay. Hmm. Can you please explain line number 23 in ticket controller? Line number 23 is basically creating a ticket. Ticket is a model and I'm creating a ticket called as ticket object. It is like pushing a line. Line number what? Line number 23 is this only, no? From line number 23 up to end. So line number 23 you understand. Once the ticket is created, you get the user ID and you get the user who has created the ticket. You already know the engineer because you have taken the engineer from here. You already know the engineer to whom this is assigned, and you take out the user who has created this ticket. Once you have the engineer and the user, you can say that the user dot ticket created, I'm going to push a new ticket value into that. So user will have one more ticket assigned to him. I mean ticket created by him. This is the array of all the tickets that this user has created, and I save the user. Similarly, there is a list of tickets that a particular engineer has been assigned, and those list is called as ticket assigned. And I'm going to push this ticket ID into the engineer's database. Does that make sense, Hariharan? Finally, I'll explain ticket response in few minutes. I'll going to write the code for ticket response. Uh, Ticket response is going to be a short piece of code that is going to convert my ticket into what I want to send to the user. Save is same as create in DB. Save is same as update. You can think of it as update, Nilanjan. You have seen find and update. It is same as that. You don't want to do it again. You don't want to update again. You don't want to find again. You can directly save that object. You can think of it as line 23 is going to create the ticket object. Aradhya. Does that make sense? Hello. Ticket response. Ticket response I'm going to explain. Just wait for a few minutes. Aradhya, does that make sense? Creating a new ticket. Okay. If we don't write save, what happens? Nothing happens. You just have an object which is the user object, which contains a ticket, but it is not saved into the DB. So the object in the RAM will have this user ID, but the DB will not contain it. Okay, Likit? Yeah. So that's there. Try is happening, then you'll have catch, which might have an error. If there is an error, we can do console.log sum user ID and reporter. Yeah. What is the problem with that? User ID. It should be the user ID that we are getting. Reporter can also be. You can use reporter ticket object dot reporter. That's okay. They are the same thing. Yeah. In body we are passing reporter. No, we are not passing reporter. In body we are passing user ID. You see here. Ticket object reporter is the ticket object. There it is. Oh, there. Okay. So let's go forward. Some error happened while creating ticket. Okay. And then I can do error dot message. Let's save the message. And then I can respond the status as 500 and send the response that. Ideally, this should also be a string, which is a constant. I don't want to write it again and again, but I'm just hand waving at this. So that's how you can write. That's how you can write the create ticket. Now I'm going to write the ticket response object converter, which is going to be my utility. In the utility, I'm going to write a ticket response converter, which is going to convert my ticket object, which I have gotten, into a response that I can send to the caller of the request. Okay. So here is how it is. There's also a simple function, which is export dot ticket response. Now, again, you might be thinking at this point that how will I remember all these things when I code a new system? Like you might be thinking that way. Uh, and my response to that would be not to think about the specific smaller scale details, but to think about the large scale system. Because most of the time, what will happen is when you go into a company, they will give you a already built system. You will not be building it from scratch. And If you understand the structure of the system, you will be able to update these things. Okay. I'm going to paste rest of the code. I don't want to write a lot of things. This is very basic code. So there are some of you who think that it's a good idea to just send the ticket back, but there are some things in the ticket that you don't want to send back. Uh, for example, I mean, there can be some things in your ticket that you don't want to send back. Or for example, the ID, you don't want to send it as underscore ID. So you want to send it as ID instead of underscore ID. And all these things it's always a good idea to keep a ticket response variable here. Okay, so that's how we can do the ticket response. And let me check what is the time and am I moving on time? Yeah, I think I'm on time. Uh, Ticket controller. So this ticket controller should work. The last thing is to create a router for it. So I'll just come to routes and I'll create a new router, which is ticket.route routes.js. Create a ticket router. This is going to const ticket controller. It's going to require get the controller and get the ticket controller. Once you have the ticket controller, you can do need two authentications. I'll just do with one authentication right now. Although there is one more authentication that I mean, if time permits today, I might write it, or maybe I'll leave it for a future lecture. It matters. It depends on the time. So there's one more. You also want to check the request. So I'm not writing that part. Middlewares. What is the problem? Middleware slash auth JWT. I'll just write it like this. Um, yeah, things looks correct. And now I can just do exports. Sorry, module dot exports. You can have a function that takes an app. All it does is app dot post because this is a create function. App dot post. You can write a CRM slash API slash ticket. If you post a ticket, then that ticket will get created. You can send the auth JWT here, which is the middleware. In auth JWT, you can send uh, verify token. I don't think this is needed. That's correct. And verify token. There's also one where we can update the request body. I'm not doing that. Again, I'm iterating on that point. And the final thing is to go to ticket controller and call the create ticket function. That's the, and I'll write it in 3 lines because it requires it. It deserves 3 lines of code. This will be the first line, and this will be the third line. Okay. Any questions about this router? By this time, you have seen this router 4 or 5 times, so you should be able to follow on this. Are you able to follow? Hello? Yes. Okay. Vivek, are you following the router? Hello? Let me check the verify token function. Let me check the verify token function if I'm using the correct one. Yeah, user ID. That is correct. Everything seems to be correct. Now I will run the app. I'll cd into 9 and this I'll do node app.js. So the admin is already created. Uh, why don't we create a ticket from the admin? So I'm going to open my Postman and Postman. Uh, I'll come here. I'll write localhost colon 3000 slash. Why is it not catching? CR slash API slash tickets. And this will be a post request. And what am I going to post here? Let me look at the body. I'll have a JSON body. And what are all the values that I need to post? Let me check. But first, what is the first need that I have? I need to log in as the uh, I need to log in as the uh, admin. Okay, so I log in as the admin. Send this. I'm able to log in. What is the problem? What am I getting here? Admin unusual. That is correct. Get this is string. This is the token that I got. Now I'm going to go to the post request. First thing I'll come to the header and there should be something else. Access token. In this I'm going to paste this. My token is ready. In the body, I'm going to write some of the things that I have about the ticket. I'll need a title. This is a string. The title is the first ticket. Then you'll need a ticket priority. Let's have a priority of 2. And then you'll have a description. Just write random description for random ticket. And what else you need? Status is relevant. Priority will be set by default or by the admin only. Priority will be set by default to before, but if you don't send the priority, it will be set to before. But if you send, it will be whatever you send it. Okay. So if you can override the priority. If I don't send the priority, it will save it as 4. If I send, it will basically save whatever I have sent. It's a good idea to send it. It is also called as status. We can have status as open. And that's it. That's it. That's all the things that I need to send. Am I forgetting anything? No. If I send the title, priority, description, and status, my ticket should get created. Let me send it and see what happens. What is the problem? What is the problem? Cannot post to CP API tickets. I think there is some problem. No, no, no. There is some problem to the. Oh, got it. Yeah. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, yes, yes. So you have to come to app.js and you also have to do here you'll have to do, I don't like this writing again and again, so I'm just going to do require uh, colon dot routes slash ticket routes ticket routes, and you can send the app. This is a short way of writing these two lines. You don't need to define the variable. You can directly write it like this. And this makes it easier to read the code. Okay, so you can directly write these here. Okay. It is essentially the same idea. You're importing the function and calling app on it. Okay, and look how beautiful it looks. When you don't define the functions, sometimes writing less is actually more descriptive. So uh, if I remove this part, uh, sorry, uh, no, this is required. So this one, no, uh, just give me 1 second. For control, sorry, yeah. If you do this, tickets are created by admin. No, tickets are created by any user. Since I had the login of an admin, so I was using an admin current. Okay. You can write it like this and it's easier to read. Now I have auth as app, user routes as app, ticket as app. So I don't have to look everywhere. Previously, it was not as descriptive. So that's one thing you can keep in mind. Sometimes writing shorter code is good. Now I'll have to restart my app because otherwise it will not work. So I'll just come on Control C and I'll just do Node.js. Since my login is current, so I should be able to run this function. Send it. Some internal server error. What is the error? Let's check the error in the description. Ticket response is not a function. Okay, there's some spelling mistake. RESPONSE. I have not created the right spelling. So ticket controller. Ticket response. Save this. Again, start the function and go back to Postman and send this. And ticket got created and assigned it to current 4248. Current, you were assigned this ticket. Reporter is the admin. Happy? Do you want to see another ticket if I create? Let's suppose I create another ticket and see if I don't send the priority, what will happen? Okay, suppose I don't send the priority and I'll say this is the second ticket, random description for random ticket, and should be great. Let me send this and let's see what gets created. Now the ticket priority is set to 4 because that is the default value. Does that make sense? Who was asking this question? Nilanjan, does that make sense? Ticket priority is set to 4 automatically. Okay. So that's how you can work with the tickets. You can create tickets. Uh, let's look at some more functions. Let me check the time first. We have half an hour, so I think I might have to. How is this being assigned? It is being assigned using a random function. It is saying fetch me a random engineer, find one, is going to find a random engineer, and that is going to be assigned to that engineer. Yeah. This is how create ticket is working. Now let's look at update ticket. Update ticket is going to take a ticket and update it. Let's see how it is. So let's so ticket creation is done after verification of access token and not is admin is not checked. Nilanjan, a ticket can also be created by a engineer or a customer. Typically, a customer will create a ticket. Uh, it's not needed for a engineer. It's not always needed for the admin to create the ticket. First is that, and second, the access token is always checked because you are going to get the user ID from the access token. Okay, Nilanjan? Yeah. So now let's talk about the update ticket. And I want to discuss how this ticket will look like first. So I'll first write the router for this, and then I'll come back to this. I'll come back to this function in a few minutes, but first I'll write the router so you understand what kind of function I'm talking about. Let me close all these different everything other than ticket controllers. I'll create everything. I'll close everything. Yeah. Now I'm going to open routers of ticket and I'm going to create a new route which is for the update. Comma app.put. Put is going to update the ticket. This will be on crm.api.tickets slash colon ID. What does this colon ID means? What is ID? If I do colon ID, what does ID means there? It's a param. Exactly. So param is ID. And you are getting a token, so you'll have auth jwt dot verify token and finally ticket controller dot update ticket. This is how so you have a token, you have a ticket, and you have some body in the ticket. You have some body in the request. Now let's look at the ticket controller and we'll write the code for adding the updating the ticket. Okay, so I'm going to give you a version of this code, which may not be the version you will code up in your case, but to save time, I'm going to give you a version. It's not the ideal version. I mean, I mean, there's nothing ideal about it. There can be other versions which are equally good depending on your use case. Uh, okay, so let's look at this, and then it will make sense. Const ticket is equal to await ticket dot find one. Which ticket are you going to find? Looking ID, and you have the ticket ID in params. Therefore, I wrote uh, therefore I wrote the router first because I want to use the params. Params.id. Simple. Are you able to follow line number 46? 46? Hello, line number 46. Look at the route. Route says ticket colon ID, which means ID is coming as a param. So you remember I was writing how to find. We can use find and update, or we can use the save operator that we have seen. We'll use find. We will use directly save operator. Okay. We'll not use find and update. Okay. So this is this. We need something more about this tree. We need the saver of the ticket. Uh, I need the saved user. What does this mean? I'll explain. This is the user who has the right over, who has called this function. Find one. Find me a user with the user ID of request.body. It's not the person who created the ticket. It is something else. I'll explain. Just give me 1 second. User ID. It is the person who is calling this. It is called the saved user. Okay. Now, if there are few options, if saved user dot user ID is equal to ticket dot reporter, somebody who reported the ticket should have the power to update the ticket. Does that make sense? I'll just give me 1 second. Or I'll just um, I'll just do can update, and no, I just want can update, and in here I'll send the saved user comma ticket. So I'll check whether the current user can update the ticket or not. I'll write a function for this. Okay. And let me come here and write. It should be created user assigned. That's exactly correct. That's exactly correct, Likit. You caught it. So we'll have a function called as const can update, which is going to take the user and ticket, and it is going to return user dot user ID should be equal to ticket dot reporter, or user dot user ID should be equal to ticket dot reporter. I'll write it in a separate line. Just give me 1 second. Or user dot user type equal to consts. Either it is assigned to you, or it is created by you, or you are the admin. Dot user types dot admin. Either you are admin, or you are the engineer who is assigned to it, or you are the customer who has created it. And this should be reporter, and this should be assignee. Either of these three conditions is true, then you can update. Otherwise, you cannot update. Is that clear? Can update? Is the can update function clear? If you cannot update, you can just do console.log. Here we are not sending result as argument. No, we don't need to send it in create update, the can update function. What that reporter assignee contain? It contains the user ID. Look at it. You can see here when I created the list, I saved the user ID as the engineer's user ID. No, it should be or. Yeah, any one of these can. It is not that he has to be the user or he has to be the assignee and the reporter and the admin as well. It should be or. Any one of these three can do it. Yeah, valid doubt, perfectly valid doubt. Now I can write a string ticket was being updated by someone without access. I'll just write without access. Status status 401 dot send. Ideally, there should also be a try and catch block, but I'm not writing it. I mean, it's okay. I'm just ignoring it for the timing, but there can be a try and catch block. So it's just going to be ticket. Is normal user able to update the ticket? Yes, the user who has created it, the customer can update it. In line 61, when it will happen? It will happen when can update returns false. Suppose line number 58 returns false. What does that mean? You don't have access to the ticket. Why find user? Because you want to check his type, user type, Suraj. You need to check the user type in case he is admin. Therefore, you need to find the user. Does that make sense? Check this line. Look at this line. This line. User type, user type. How do you get the user type from user ID alone? You'll have to get the user document. Does that make sense, Suraj? Okay, so he can update this, and once he has the right to update, I can update the whole ticket. And here is how I can update the ticket. Ticket 91, it says it is a console log statement which says is been has been so ticket has been. I don't like this sentence. Just give me 1 second. Let me rephrase it. Ticket has been tried. First of all, it was attempted. Ticket update was attempted by someone without access to the ticket. Without access, I'll just write access. See what I've written here? Ticket update was attempted someone without access to the ticket. Access is a loaded word, Nilanjan. Ticket was what was attempted. A ticket update was attempted by someone. So it is saying that there was an error. It is saying that that cannot be done because he didn't have right to it. Okay. So it cannot be updated. Hariharan, I'm coming to your doubt. Just give me 1 second. Let me clarify Nilanjan. Sir, in line 54, yeah, it's just a caution. Yes. In line number 54, we are just checking user available in DB or not, right? No, in line number 54, we are getting the user so that we can send him across to the can update function and check his user type. Okay. You get the user, send it to can update, check his user type. If it is admin, then out okay. Otherwise, and if he's either he should be admin or he should be the assignee or the reporter. If none of these three parties are involved, then you don't allow him to update. Yeah, sure. That's what it is. Now let's look at different parts of this. Ticket dot title. Uh, ticket dot title is equal to equals dot body dot title. If request dot body dot title is not undefined, then you keep it as if it is not equal to undefined, then you keep it as equal to. Change the title. If there is a request to change the title, change it. Otherwise, keep the old title. Similarly, if there is a request to change the description, ticket dot description. If there is a request to change the description, you can check request dot description. Sorry, request dot body dot description not equal to undefined. This is the case. Uh, is undefined. If it is not undefined, you can do request dot body dot description. Else, I don't like this here. Take it to the next step. Colon because you can just do ticket dot description. That is one. Then you'll have ticket priority. The same thing will follow. Um, ticket priority request dot body dot ticket priority not equal to undefined. This is not defined. And request dot body dot ticket priority. Else you can do ticket dot ticket priority. Ticket priority. Are you following what I'm doing here? If the variable is present in the request, change it. If the variable is not present in the request, do nothing. Or keep the old variable. Hello, am I making sense? We have done title, description, and priority. There's also status. The same thing will follow. Ticket what is status? This is probably the most important one. You will typically want to change the status equal to undefined. Window request. Once again, sir, I'm going to explain. Just give me 1 second. Ternary condition is not understood. I'm going to explain. Don't worry about it. What does this ternary condition say? Hariharan, can you try to make a guess over what this ternary condition is saying? You have a ticket object and you have a request.body object. There are two objects that are given to you, request.body and ticket. You want to override the values of ticket object that are undefined, that are present in the request.body object. Does that make sense? Is my English making sense? You have a request.body and you have a ticket, and you want to overlap the request.body on top of ticket, which is going to create a new ticket. Not getting? Okay, just give me 1 second. Will create a new ticket? No, it will not create a new ticket. It will save in the current ticket itself. It will save these changes in the current ticket object. What is update? What does update do? Update is going to update the ticket document. Whatever ticket document you have, its value will get updated. Let me write the last line and then I'll explain it one more time. Just give me 1 second. Ticket dot assignee is equal to request dot body dot assignee. I'll explain it with the scenario and it will make Perfect. So just give me 1 second. Request dot body assignee ticket dot assignee. Okay. And then the last line also is, sorry, uh, await ticket dot save, and save the ticket. And then we can do is result dot status. I'm going to explain the code. Just give me 1 second. Send object converter dot response updated. You send the ticket. Okay. I'll save this and let me explain this part with a diagram. I'll stop this sharing. Suppose I created a ticket. Its name was my first ticket. My first ticket. This ticket will be an object which will contain our title, our description. It will contain a priority. It will contain maybe a reporter and so on. Now there is a request.body. If request.body.title is not defined, is not equal to undefined, which means that there is a title provided, there is a new title provided, there will be a request.body. And this body will contain few things. It will not contain all the values. It will contain maybe title, which means I just want to update the title. Maybe the title was ABC, and now I want to update it to XYZ. Now let's go back to the let's go back to the ternary operator. The ternary operator will say request.body.title not equal to undefined. What does that mean? My request.body has a new title in it. So what should I do in this case? What should I do if my request.body has a new title? It is not undefined. Make a guess. Change the title. Change the title of the ticket. Update should happen. Ticket.title should get updated to request.body.title. Does that make sense? Is it making sense? Yeah. So that's what this is doing. And that's what rest of the and now I think most of you who had a doubt about that code are able to understand it, because now it is very simple. All of them are, if not provided, we do nothing. We don't do anything. Exactly, Likit, you got it right. If this is not provided, you don't do anything. And finally you save it, and that's all there is to this. There should be a try catch block in case you are finding one ticket. While you're doing find one, you can put it inside a try catch block. True, first, else second. Yeah, that is one way of writing it. Yes, Niranjan. What you can do is you can directly do ticket request body dot title or ticket dot uh, ticket dot title. This is more JavaScript way of writing it. You could have written this condition. Is this what you're talking about, Niranjan? Try writing it like that. That will be a good idea. Yeah, you can write that. I just mentioned it explicitly. That's okay. Now I'm going to save this and run the code again. This time with the new code. Hopefully it will run. This expected token. Okay, can update should be a function. So I'll just do a arrow function here. Save this and again run this. What is happening? Control C. Yeah. This is, I just close this. Um, Kill terminal. Open a new terminal. Let it open. Go to CD9. This node. Yes. Now it is getting created. Seems to be working. Now I'll go to my Postman. And this time, as the admin, I'm going to remove this part and I'm going to do the first ticket updated. I'm going to remove this comma and this put operation should be changed to post should be changed to put, and there should be an ID that I got. This ID is what the ticket ID is. So let me copy this ID and let me I'll okay, I'll just paste it here. Okay, I paste the ID in front of tickets and let me see what happens. If I send this, ticket gets updated. Okay, the ID remains the same, but the ticket says the first ticket updated. Happy? Yes. How good it feels. So this is one thing I just I just want to spend few minutes talking about this point. If you are doing things correctly, things should work out. I mean, if you're building the whole system with the proper principles, if you have all the pieces intact, there's no reason for the system not to work. Okay. Typically, things will occur, things will do wrong, things will go wrong if you don't know the bigger picture first. Because if you have the bigger picture in mind, then you can easily fix the issues. Like whatever issues are coming, you can easily fix them in the system. Because for you, it's not a 10,000 line code. For you, it's just 5 lines of code that is, the flow of you know the flow of the code. So this is just 5 lines of code that is running. Uh, Whereas somebody who just looks at a system which is this big might be thinking, what is going wrong in the system? I cannot figure it out. And that will take a long time for them to figure out. So if you're building it correctly, there should not be an error. And that should be the ideal state. There's a lot of students who have anxiety about computers. I mean, even if they're computer sciences students, they have anxiety in their brain, which says somehow my code will not work. Did you ever had that anxiety? That uncertainty that the code will somehow not work? That lack of confidence on the code? Hello? Do you have that? Yeah. Uh, I'll take a different class on that whole psychology of I'll take a class on psychology of a software developer sometime. Maybe yeah. I'm going to push the code. That is true. But basically the idea is you should not have that worry if you have the big picture in mind. There are two more controllers left in today's lecture. Maybe next lecture I'll add those controllers, or maybe I'll have extra lecture. I don't know. Most probably we will be able to finish, but if we are not able to finish today, it took extra time because I had to cover some of the things that I've covered on Saturday again, because some of you were not there on Saturday. But that's okay. We'll cover most more things in the coming lectures. I hope you're enjoying the sessions and learning something new. I hope to see you again on Wednesday. Bye everyone. Good night. Thanks. Good night. I've pushed the changes earlier. I've pushed the changes. Yeah. You can fetch it from there. Yeah. Okay, bye. I'm ending the class.